Last week on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1, Coach Ed Young took Matt Hatfield behind the woodshed.
Cincinnati Bengals. Listen, the Washington football team, I'm not sure will win another game the rest of the year. Someone told me that, and I actually believe them.
Hail to the
football team.
Hail victory.
I will make a switch. Even though they're losing Myles Garrett for this game, I like Cleveland.
Fun times in Cleveland again.
I'm going to go under 51.5 for Packers and Colts. I know someone on the station once said, lie if you can, steal if you must, but always cheat. However, you cannot cheat at this game.
That's not cheating. I'm going by what I have in front of me. 3.5, Miami.
4.
I'll take it.
You know what? Cheaters never win.
I've got Detroit over Carolina.
You fool!
Rams, Bucks.
No butt heads allowed, but you keep coming back.
In Tampa Bay, I think Tampa Tom got it straightened out last week.
Because Brady's your boy.
Laying the 4 at home. Give me the Bucks.
Here, have a quarter, make a phone call.
Why did the football coach start pounding on the vending machine? So he could get his quarterback. Woo!
Hail to the
Football team.
Hail victory.
Players.
From the warpath, fight for all DC.
This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk with Matt Hatfield on ESPN Radio 94.1.
Good Saturday morning to you all out there on this 28th day of November, the final Saturday of this wacky 2020 calendar year. And welcome to 757 Saturday Sports Talk, brought to you by Larry King Law. You know who to call if you're injured in an accident. That's 757-INJURED for Larry King, 757-595-8100. I am Matt Hatfield. No, the coach Ed Young is not here with us today, but we do have Dino Franza on the other side of the glass. We may hear from Ed before the program is done to see if he can do his picks. Dino, I'm coming off my first winless week of the season.
Yeah, and in that intro that we just heard, you mentioned last week, I remember you saying that the Washington football team may not win a game for the rest of the season, and since then they've won 2.
They won 2. They matched what they had won last week when we came on here. How about that pass rush? Did they just absolutely annihilate Dallas?
It was awful. You know, the play of the game that really stood out to me, tell you how Dallas's season has gone, when they do the fake punt.
Yes.
On their own, 22 or whatever it was? They don't even get to the line of scrimmage.
No. You know what, to me, was the next best play in that game? It was just an athletic play, the interception Montez Sweat made. I mean, that's what you call a freak of nature. I mean, just to make that play, catch it yourself, and run. Fourth quarter, they just exploded there. So, yeah, they're in first place in the NFC East, for now. Giants have a chance to get there. Eagles have a chance to get there. And Dallas, despite its record of 3-8, is not completely out of playoff contention.
As bad as that division is, nobody is out of contention.
Someone tried to tell me yesterday, too, that division's not as bad as you think. Literally, that's why the data says it's the worst division of all time. Yeah, well, Cowboys beat the Falcons and the Eagles beat the Niners. But against other teams from other divisions, I think they have the worst record in the last 15, 20 years since they went to the 4-division format for each conference.
You know, the way 2020's been, can we just change the rules and there is nobody from the NFC East that gets in the playoffs? Just change the rules, give it to a more deserving team in another division.
Even if you don't change the rules, I'm in favor of, if you don't finish with a record of at least 500 or better, to host that first-round game. It's absolutely disgraceful that Washington, Philly, Dallas, or the Giants could host Seattle, the Rams, my Cardinals, your Bears, the Packers. Fill in the blank of whoever. Tampa Bay. By the way, I got to stop picking them. They're killing me. They're killing me.
You can't figure them out. It depends which Tom Brady's going to show up.
Yeah, no kidding. So to give you the tally, 0-3 for me, which drops me from to 21-10-2 on the year. It's still a healthy 68%, but I was batting about 82%, 820 at one point this year. I thought Ed went 2-1, but he actually went 1-2 with Cleveland winning, Miami losing, Detroit losing. So he drops to 15-18. So he sliced off a game. So if you do the win-loss percentage ratio there, I am only up by 7 now. I was up double digits. And unfortunately for you, Dino, the Packers, who should have won that game with Raven Green making a big forced fumble. We talk about him all the time from First Colonial High School and JMU. They couldn't get it done and lose in overtime.
Yeah, I thought I had Green Bay there as the dog to win that game, and it was looking good there for a while.
Yeah.
And, they end up falling short. Tough loss there for the Packers, but, knowing them and Aaron Rodgers, they'll come back in fine form against the Chicago Bears tomorrow night.
So even though you're 4-7, you're leading the NFC East. Feel good about that. You're atop the NFC East.
All right. Hey, yeah.
A lot to get to on the program today. We've got some special guests that will join us. State championship coach, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. No, not LeBron James. We're talking about Darnell Dozier, 11-time state championship coach who was 658-55 in his career. That's a 92% win percentage. He'll join us to talk about the Princess Anne girls basketball program, which is always one of the best in the nation, not just in the state, it seems like here lately, led by Isaiah James, the NC State signee. So we'll get a little feel of the basketball scene, which high school hoops is supposed to start with practices beginning December 7th. Yeah, practice. We'll see if everything will go off as planned there. We'll talk some more basketball with the play-by-play voice of the ODU women's basketball team. They open up the season today. We're talking about our pal Doug Ripley. He'll join us today on the show on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. And by the way, the Delisha Milton-Jones era begins today at GW, George Washington University, 2 o'clock tip. You'll catch the coverage starting right here at 1:30 on ESPN Radio 94.1 at the Charles E. Smith Center. And I'm curious to see, Dino, the women's basketball team, they could have made a run in the NCAA tournament last year, the pandemic canceling it, but I think the ODU women have a very good chance in another strong Conference USA. The women's side of Conference USA is stronger than the men's side this year.
You mentioned the women's team for Old Dominion. It is a shame that the season fell short because it was looking very promising. Very good year last year.
It was for them. So they returned some key ingredients. We know, of course, Asia Wayne, Amari Young, and others there. So we'll talk about that. And also, Doug did the men's game of the day. He filled in for Ted and Twardzik there when they lost to Maryland the day. So we'll get a couple thoughts on the ODU men who are in action tonight against the Tribe of William and Mary. So a little in-state battle there. And how about kudos to just yesterday, in fact, how about Norfolk State? We didn't jinx Robert Jones. He got himself a nice win up there at James Madison yesterday as the Spartans doing mighty well.
Yeah, absolutely. 83-73 was the final. Norfolk State beating the Dukes of James Madison.
And got that done without Joe Bryant, who is arguably not just the top defender on that NSU squad, but maybe in the entire MEAC. J.J. Matthews, the Towson transfer, did very, very well. You'd expect a former CAA player to do really well against another CAA team in JMU.
And, of course, got to bring this up yesterday as far as college basketball. How about San Francisco knocking off Virginia yesterday?
And let me get to that, too, with you, because we'll tell you about the last guest here in a moment joining us in the 11 o'clock hour. Well, we might have two. You never know. But kudos to the Dons of San Francisco, Bill Russell's alma mater, because the reaction on Twitter, this happens every year in sports, and it's especially, I think, hypercentric to the nth degree in a pandemic year, where if a team loses in the NFL in week 1 or in college football early, I guess you could say it applied to Michigan and Penn State this year. They never recovered exactly, but whatever sport we're talking about. Now, baseball, shortened season, it bit you if you're the Nats again. Didn't bet them last year, bet them this year. But a team loses a game early and people go into panic mode. Oh my gosh, UVA is not very good. Let's celebrate what San Francisco did. They made 13 threes, and they're a team that scored 40 in the second half against a UVA team that does not get torched like that defensively. Tony Bennett's team will regroup. And all I got to point to is, and I pointed this out on Twitter yesterday, I was exchanging messages with who happened to agree with me on this, Nathan Epstein from Wavy TV 10. He said the same thing. Look, calm down, relax. It's just game 2. They looked extremely good in game 1 against Towson. Sam Hauser, oh my goodness, Wowzer. He was no Doogie Howser. He was Sam Wowzer Hauser. The Marquette transfer was knocking threes down left and right. And he had a good look yesterday at the end of the game. But just remember back in 2004-05, and I know you know this, Dino, being an Illinois fan, North Carolina lost by 11 to Santa Clara, a team that went 15-16 that year. UNC, with that group with Raymond Felton and Rashad McCants and Sean May, went on to win 14 straight and then beat the Fighting Illini, a really good Illinois team with Dee Brown and Luther Head and Deron Williams in the national championship. Might have been Illinois winning if James Augustine wasn't playing double agent, but we'll move on.
You look at both those teams in 05. And look at all the NBA players that came out of there between the two schools.
I tell you, but nobody really remembers, unless you're a diehard UNC fan. UNC lost that game to Santa Clara. You don't remember. So I'm not saying UVA is going to win the national championship, but this happens all the time in college hoops. Thanksgiving holiday games, Christmas holiday games, before the new year, you see an upset, a big giant one, whether it's a Kansas going down or a Villanova going down or a Duke, a Carolina, a UVA going down. Hey, how about that team from the 80s? You remember Chaminade?
Yeah, Chaminade. Hey, how about UMBC just a few years ago?
And what did the Who's do the next year? They won the national championship. I'm saying I think they'll be fine. It's just a matter of give some props to the Santa Claras. Give some props, in this case, to San Francisco. They had their moment. They got up for it. They delivered. I don't think UVA's season will be defined by a Thanksgiving Day weekend loss to San Francisco. I just don't.
So what you're saying is come March, if plans go as we hope they will, and we actually will have a March.
Please, we need one.
Well, just forget about this, I guess.
I think so, because, again, 3 for 13 on threes for UVA. San Francisco was 13 of 28 from three. Now, UVA's not been known for its offense. They're a little bit tedious at times to watch offensively in hoops. You know they bring the defense with Tony Bennett, and I think they are a better shooting team with Sam Hauser this year. I think they're going to be a more complete team with a couple of the freshmen they brought in, Reese Beekman, as well as Jahir Abdur-Rahim, Sharif's son. We talked about that with Dave Kane, the play-by-play voice of the Who's, a few weeks back. So I'm not ready to press the panic button and go, oh my gosh, what in the world just happened? I think they'll be all right. You know what was the best game, though, the last couple of days? It wasn't a real college basketball game. It was an exhibition game. Did you see what Bucky McMillan's team did from Samford? Not Stanford or Fred Sanford. We're talking about Samford, S-A-M-F-O-R-D.
Right.
174 points as they beat Greenville out of Illinois in an exhibition game. 10 guys in double digits, and the local tie-in, KJ Davis, who once upon a time played for Ed Young as a freshman, finished up at Norcom High School in Portsmouth. He's a transfer from East Carolina. He had 13 points in that game. But Bucky McMillan, the new coach for them, he led a high school team in Birmingham, Alabama to 5 state championships in the past 12 years, and he's the new head coach at Samford. So if you don't know anything about Samford or don't know much about college basketball, you like to see the ball go through the net, put on Samford, because I guarantee they'll give you some entertainment.
I did not see that. They scored 174, you said?
In an exhibition game. And I think it was either 98 or 100 in the first half alone.
Wow.
I'm assuming, I haven't watched them, they're playing that Grinnell system where you just get up and down and just jack it up, shoot the ball, put that thing up in the air, and away you go. So that to me was kudos to the Dons of San Francisco. A lot of interesting results in college hoops. Oh, by the way, how good does Gonzaga look early on here through a couple of games?
Yeah, big win yesterday over Auburn, 90-67.
Mighty strong, and if you want to stick with the Conference USA flavor, the Old Dominions League there, Charles Bassey, almost a triple-double for them the other day. So a lot of good things happening in college hoops. You got a ton of college football to go over with, and we'll give you a chance to interact with us. As always, our Twitter feed is 757 Sports Talk, and our phone lines are 757-687-9494. That's area code 757-687-9494 here on ESPN Radio 94.1. The other guest we'll have in the 11 o'clock hour that is confirmed for us around 11:20 this morning will be Braden Bird, young man from Woodside High School in Newport News, defensive end, tight end. He had over 20 offers, and he committed on Thanksgiving Day to the Naval Academy, the midshipmen. And we've been carrying on 1310, right? A lot of Navy football games?
Well, not lately because they haven't been playing.
That's
but
true.
They are going to play tonight against Memphis, and that is on 1310 a.m.
So there you go. And we had Pete Medhurst, the play-by-play voice of the midshipmen, on back when the season started. So get your Navy football fix. We'll talk about his commitment, Braden Bird of Woodside, coming up in the 11 o'clock hour here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. One more item to get to. It was college football from yesterday, Dino. As you know, you had the NFL, the 2 games. You didn't get the third game because we know the COVID situations with the Baltimore Ravens, a dozen guys, including Lamar Jackson. So that game with Baltimore-Pittsburgh off the board from Thanksgiving night, off the board for Sunday. Looks like it'll play Tuesday. Things could change between now and by the time we get off the air. Who knows? You hold your breath with all these things. But how about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish yesterday? Were they mighty good or what?
Yeah, taking care of North Carolina, 31-17.
And let me tell you, the guy that stood out again for Notre Dame was Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the Bethel High School graduate, leading tackler for Notre Dame on defense with 9 total stops, 5 solo. They shut out UNC in the second half in that game. Heels came in averaging 43 points per game. So to do that defensively is just a unbelievable job to me. I mean, North Carolina gained 125 yards on its first 14 plays. I saw this tweet by David Teal yesterday of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. 125 yards, 2 touchdowns, their first 14 plays. They gained 78 yards on 25 second-half snaps. Notre Dame just absolutely locked them down.
Yeah, they looked really, really good. And now the Fighting Irish, 9-0, I believe.
They are right there in great position. You know, they got to still probably play. We put that little conditional there. Clemson in a rematch for the ACC championship. We all got to get there and power through this with all these COVID, cancellations and postponements, if you will. But listen, they're winning games because of their defense. This is no disrespect to the offense. The thing that does jump out to me, though, is Ian Book now with the win yesterday. 29 victories, ties the most by a quarterback in Notre Dame's storied football history. You don't think of Ian Book when you think of quarterbacks. You might even think more recently of a Brady Quinn. I'm sure you think of that guy, old Jolton Joe Montana, when you think of Notre Dame QBs. You don't think of Ian Book as the guy who's going to end up as the winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history when this season is over, we do believe.
Yeah, not a household name by any means, but hey, a win's a win.
He's right there. And how about that Oregon State game? I didn't stay up to watch the initial. I caught the replay this morning, the finish of the game at 4-something in the morning. I caught the replay. That was a wild game as the Beavers take down the Ducks. Quack, quack.
Yeah, upset there yesterday, and that was a high-scoring, nice, good game. Oregon State 41-38 over the 15th-ranked Oregon Ducks.
I think that's going to put an end to the talk of a Pac-12 team getting in the playoff. I know USC is still there in the mix, but not enough games, and I think that knocks Oregon out.
Well, here's another thing, too, with Ohio State not playing today. That game canceled against Illinois. And the Big Ten has no room to make up games because they started the season later than, say, the SEC or the ACC. They lose another game. They're not going to play enough games to get to the Big Ten championship.
That's a problem. And listen, people were squawking on social media this week about Ohio State being behind Clemson, who's lost, and Ohio State hasn't. That doesn't bother me. They're still in the top 4 at the moment. What bothered me was how low BYU was. And I'm not saying BYU should have been 5th or 6th, not right there with Texas A&M and Florida, but you can't tell me they're not a top 10 team. They've been unreal offensively, and they can't completely help their competition, their schedule this year. I'm not sure we're going to penalize teams as harshly for the schedule as we do in other years, given the situation we're in with the pandemic.
Yeah, 2020, once again, throw another wrench into the deal and see how it comes out.
You just put that game on TV when BYU plays and tell me they're not better than a lot of these Power 5
I tell you what, they are good.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're better than Florida or A&M or the top 4, but they're better than some teams that are ranked ahead of them. I can tell you that.
They just don't get a lot of attention.
They don't. They really don't. Let's talk to our friend Keith from wherever he is, Paramount, Portsmouth, Belgium, Beirut. Where are you today, Keith?
I'm outside between Hopewell and Spring Grove.
All right. So the rumor that you're in Beirut's not true?
No, sir.
Okay. What's on your mind today?
I see a couple of Beirut. This team is not playing this winter. Jamestown, Lafayette, and War Hill.
Yeah, they are not playing. Williamsburg, James City County. I think this has been a whirlwind week, and especially with the holiday of Thanksgiving this week. I think it was Tuesday, and I spoke with Kenny Edwards, the AD of Jamestown. No, he's dejected, as are so many of the administrators, coaches, and athletes over there. I do know that, in fact, going on right now in Williamsburg, according to Marty O'Brien of the Daily Press and the Virginian Pilot, there's actually a rally going on. I'm not sure exactly where it is in Williamsburg, but a Save WJCC Winter Sports Rally going on right now. So they're trying to get the decision reversed. From talking to people in the know, I'm not so sure it will happen. My heart aches for those kids, but just another situation here where we're seeing, so far they're the only school division to our knowledge locally to have pulled the plug. But we're keeping fingers crossed it doesn't trickle down to other school divisions in cities such as Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, Suffolk, Portsmouth, Hampton, Newport News, and others. So we shall see. But we're getting closer to that time. I think if they get to December 1st, Keith, and those teams that are scheduled to play are still slated to play, I think they're going to be okay. I think to get through Tuesday, first day of December, no real issues and no major spikes that are, enormous between now and then, I think they'll play.
Okay, and another thing, too, I think NFL, I think two guys, if you guys be watching for NFL draft, Daz Newsome, I think NFL, somebody going to pick him up.
Dazzling Daz, I agree with you completely. And our boy Owusu's definitely going to get picked up as well.
But Benito Newton, he going to enroll at Pitt.
Who?
Benito Newton.
Oh, I thought you said Nate Newton. I'm like, Nate Newton retired years ago from Dallas. Yeah, Malik Newton from Lake Taylor does plan to enroll early at Pittsburgh. All indications are that's still a go. Yes.
Okay, and y'all have a nice day.
You too, Keith. We'll ask Braden Bird what he's going to do, if he's going to enroll early or play the upcoming season. Football is slated to get going with its first games February 22nd. We'll take a timeout, though, and come back with Darnell Dozier, a guy who knows a thing or two about championships and winning. Head girls basketball coach at Princess Anne High. It's coming your way right here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. It's ESPN Radio 94.1.